Hey YouTube, Brian LCS. Thanks for stopping by the channel and this video, how to get started selling comic books on WhatNot. So stay tuned for all of my best tips.
You down with LCS? You down with LCS? You down with LCS? Who's down with LCS? You down with LCS? You down with LCS? You down with LCS? Who down with LCS?
So hey YouTube, welcome back. So let's talk about WhatNot, right? It is the latest, hottest app that's out there for selling comic books. And I recently joined. I've been a buyer on WhatNot for some time, but I recently applied for becoming a seller and held my first auction. So I wanted to share some of the things that I learned selling on WhatNot. So to really get started on Whatnot, you have to download the app or access it via your PC or laptop or tablet or whatever you're on. Um, and you have to sign up for an account. So that's kind of step one, right? And so as soon as you do that, you can become a buyer, right? You can browse auctions and buy merchandise, comic books, pop figures, cards. There's a ton of different categories on Whatnot. So that's kind of step one. And then step two, if you want to become a seller and actually sell some of your own stuff on there, you have to submit an application. You can do it through the app, or like I said, on a desktop or a laptop. And it's basically a form, an application that you fill out, and it collects some, personal information. They're looking for, social media, and if you've sold on any other platform before. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to vet some of the sellers and see if they are selling or have a history of selling on other platforms like eBay or Mercari or things like that. So um, just to kind of get a feel for you as a seller. So that's really the next step is submit that application. Now I had to submit my application 2 or 3 times because I had submitted it at first and I never heard anything back, and then I resubmitted, um, and I don't think I heard back on the second time, and I had to do it a third time. And so I think they're refining that process. Um, but so I submitted the application for the third time, finally was approved. You get an email, saying you're approved, and then you have to select a time to basically sit in on a Zoom call for your orientation. And so I was able to pick a time and then sat down for the orientation. Now, the orientation is very informal, is really the best way to describe it. It's basically somebody, who works for Whatnot, hosts the Zoom call and basically runs through an overview of how to sell on the platform. And there's time for Q&A at the end. So they open it up to all of the participants of the call, and you're able to ask, any questions or clarify any of the information that went over in the presentation. And like I said, it's very informal. And so, you don't have to feel pressured. You can just listen to all the information. Um, I didn't, when I sat into my orientation, I never even asked a question. I listened to all the information, and then I listened to other questions from other sellers, and basically had all of my questions answered. So once you do that, then you will get an approval. So after they just confirm that you've attended the orientation, they will send you an email and confirm that you are ready to sell. You basically opening up some of the seller features within the app or on their website. And so the next step is really to schedule your first auction. And so in the orientation, they had asked that, once you get approved, to try to schedule the auction, I think within the next 2 weeks, so that you can kind of really get a feel for the platform, and you really don't forget the information that was just provided in the orientation. So um, there's a little bit of work. So once you're at that, and that's what I did. I completed the orientation, got the email saying I was confirmed to sell, and then set up a date for my first auction. So I did my first auction on a Saturday afternoon. So there are a few things that you need to do prior to the auction. One of the things that I would recommend is setting up shipping profiles. So within the app, they have a number of predefined profiles, shipping profiles. Um, but if you're selling comic books, if you're selling a single book or multiple books, you can set profiles up based on that. So I set up a profile for a single book. I set up a profile from 1 to 8 books, and then I set a profile up from over 9 and above. So that just gave me some flexibility because if somebody buys multiple books, they get a discount basically on shipping. They're not charged the same rate, for each book. There's like an added on cost. And what Whatnot has done is they have negotiated shipping fees with USPS, so that you really do get a deal. You can send a Gemini mailer for between like $7 and $8, and it all goes out priority mail. So um, Whatnot has certainly done their homework on the shipping side, but it's definitely um, beneficial for you to set up your own shipping profiles. And then next, you have to list your items. Now, this is where I've seen um, some people handle it different ways. When I've been in auctions and buying things, I've seen people list books with a very generic title. Marvel Raw Book number 1, Marvel Raw Book number 2, DC Raw Book, number 3, and so on. And they're not really giving you the description of what the book is. Obviously, you see it on camera, and so you can, whether it's a Spider-Man book or a Batman book, whatever it may be. But they're not taking the time to actually create those listings with the details. Now, I'm not sure if anybody's run into problems. I have not experienced it myself. I have not really heard of anybody, but my guess is that there could be some issue if you've bought something called Marvel Raw Book, and you think you're getting Amazing Spider-Man number 300, but Amazing Spider-Man 301 shows up in the mail. I'm not sure if you have any way of backtracking that as a buyer. Um, so what I would recommend, and really too as a seller, right? Because you could potentially have a complaint or somebody asking for a return. So what I would recommend doing is, and it is a little time consuming, it will take you more time to get set up, is actually list the books by name. So that's what I did when I created my listings. I had my stack of books that I was looking to sell, and I actually put in the name. So if I was selling an Amazing Spider-Man number 300, that's what the listing title was. So I just think it would help you avoid any issues, with shipping or delivery or returns. Um, I'm assuming that other sellers, when they're listing these titles very generically, they're keeping some record of it, on their end in the, whether it's a spreadsheet, a piece of paper. Um, but I would just, for me personally, I would like to try to avoid any goof ups. So I would recommend that you list the actual name of the comic book with the issue number and all that, and don't go generic. Just something that I found, and I think um, from a buyer's perspective, there's no question. You know exactly what you're getting because the listing is that. And you do have the ability to set up an auction. You can list items as buy it now. I see a number of people list, mystery boxes or certain books in the buy it now section during their live auction. So that's another way that you can sell things within Whatnot. It just doesn't have to be a live auction. Now, so once you set up the shipping profiles, you've listed your items. Now you're basically getting ready for the live auction. Whenever you've scheduled that. So just a couple things there. You may want to set a time limit or a certain amount of books. So because it can take. I think my first auction lasted well over an hour, And so, and it moves pretty quick. So you want to be organized with the books and, have some post-it notes available so that you can write down, who it won and stick it on the book and put it aside. That was a great way for me to stay organized during the auction. Now, the other thing is it takes some time to build an audience, right? You have to have followers um, for your auction and basically follow your profile so that they know when you're going live. Now, I have about 40 followers on WhatNot. Now, not 40 people showed up to my live auction. I maybe had 6 or 7 people within the auction at any given time. So you have to be aware of that because it does take time to build an audience, and the larger amount of followers you have, obviously, the more that potentially could show up to the live auction and then bid on your books. Now, what I would say is, when you're first starting out, offering some type of giveaway that helps draw people in. Obviously, giving away free stuff is always a good way to um, draw people in. And you may even want to say, maybe you build it to a certain amount of tiers. Like if I hit 50 followers, then I'll give away this certain book or slab or whatever it may be. But have some incentive built in for followers so that they will follow you and then hopefully come to your live auction, you know, entice them with a giveaway is a great way, I think, to start and help build that audience. Now, the other thing is that what we see a lot of people on WhatNot do is start the auction at $1. Um, you need to be careful when you first start because if you don't have a big following and not a lot of people in the auction, you might be selling books under what you really want to get for them. So don't be afraid to list a book or multiple books at a higher price than $1. If you want $10 for a specific book, but you only started at $1 and you don't have a lot of people in the auction, you may not reach the $10 mark, and now you've sold the book for under what you really want for it. So there are a couple different options. Maybe start it at, a higher price point, $4, $5, or maybe list it as a buy it now, for the $10 that you're looking for. That's the biggest drawback that I've seen with WhatNot is that it takes a little bit of time to build the audience so that you have more people within the auction and can kind of guarantee that you'll sell books at a higher price point. Now, there are certainly other platforms. eBay has been a platform that I've sold on for a long time. It's one of the reasons why I like eBay so much because I can set a price and kind of set it and forget it. And then if somebody's interested and comes along, they can buy it at that price. Or you can use the best offer where somebody can make you an offer on that book. With the live auction, you're moving pretty quick. Auctions can be 30 seconds to a minute long. And, if you don't reach that price point, you're still obligated to sell that book at whatever the bid is. So just keep that in mind because if you um, don't want to just sell books at a really low price, um, WhatNot may not be for you initially because, like I said, you really need to build the audience. And when you list things on eBay, there's a built-in audience. If somebody's searching for that book, they can come across your book. So just something to keep in mind. Um, and I think that's really it. Those are some of the basic things. I think when you're in the auction too, is make sure you have a bottle of water with you because, you're running the show and you're talking a lot. You're trying to entertain. You're asking questions or answering questions from the chat. So you want to be kind of set up because you want to try to keep things moving. So have a bottle of water or whatever your drink of choice is nearby because your voice could get a little hoarse or your throat could get dry because you're driving this auction. And now one of the other tips I would mention is I use my cell phone to run the auction so that I could display the books, show the books, but I also had a tablet, an iPad with the app open as well. And so if I had to make any changes to any of the listings or update any information, I was able to do that um, through the iPad. So just think about your setup before you go live. You may even want to test some things out, just make sure it's working you expect, as you expect. But just also, you can just pop on somebody else's auction and just see how they're running things to get some ideas or some um, real life tips on how people are running auctions just by watching others. So that's it. If you have any questions about selling on Whatnot, let me know. Drop them in the comments below. Happy to answer them. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to sell on Whatnot, and this has nothing to do with the experience. Overall, the app was very easy to use, and the auction went pretty smooth. Um, I'm just finding that I think it may take more time to build an audience, and if you're doing auctions more frequently, once a week or a few times a week, I think you can build an audience rather quickly. But if you're not, if you're very kind of sporadic in your auctions, live auctions, I think it's going to be tough for you to really make some good money or get the value that you're expecting from your book. So a platform like eBay might be a better way to go if you're kind of a casual seller. But I'm seeing other sellers on Whatnot have great success because they're consistently selling. They've built the audience. I've seen, auctions where there's, 30, 40 people within the auction and a lot of people actively bidding. Um, so, in raw books, is going to be different. You're going to draw a different crowd and followers compared to maybe slab books. So, just keep those things in mind. Like I said, the best advice that I could have is really just go watch other people's auctions and just kind of take in some of the information that you're seeing there, see what works, what's selling, what people are looking for. I think that's really kind of your best approach. So, but like I said, if you're casual, eBay might be the way to go for you. So, but let me know. I'm rambling now. Any questions, just drop them in the comments. Happy to answer them. Like I said, been selling on eBay for a long time, and dipping my toe in some of these other platforms to see how it goes. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I know this is probably a long video, but hopefully it was helpful. Drop a comment. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you soon.